You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show, the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers, but we got Craig. What's up, Craig?
Hey, Ryan, it's Craig from Indiana.
Hey.
It's Monday morning after the bye week. And I think one of your last podcasts, we were kind of reviewing the various games and who you'd want to win and why. And as the Sunday was going on and kind of flipping through different games,
Sure.
I was feeling really good, man. I mean, the Vikings were getting beat at one point, even at the end. You know, Jacksonville had the ball with 4 minutes to go, and obviously that didn't turn out well. Detroit was.
It's like I said, it was almost a perfect week up to a certain point. I remember. Because we were at a hotel still. I remember going over to my son and going through the games. I'm like, oh, that's good. Well, that's good. Well, that's good. Like, it was down the line. And then as soon as I turned the games on, everything started to change. All these teams, it really freaking annoyed me. But Bears got smoked. A few other things went our way. It wasn't bad.
Being stomped on, and then Houston comes out and can't do anything. Kansas City, blocks a field goal and ends up winning the game, and I was just like, man, everything we kind of were talking about as far as what we were hoping would happen didn't really happen. I guess San Francisco ended up winning. So, they're still, in our rearview mirror, but still a threat. So, bummer. I didn't think I'd get emotional this weekend, and I was getting a little PO'd at these games being thrown away. But then it was totally redeemed when the Bears
exactly
were a disaster. So that was awesome, and they're clearly out of it. They got such a tough schedule coming up. So that helped make the weekend a little bit better. So hoping that the Packers come out of this bye fired up, ready to go. They got some catching up to do and just got to keep winning in order to get into the playoffs. It's going to be tight. Hope you had a good Sunday off, and we'll talk maybe later this week. Take care.
Sounds like we had a very similar Sunday, very similar experience where everything was perfect, things couldn't have been better, and then it was just everything turned on its head. The Vikings came back and won. The Chiefs frickin' won in that block. There were a couple others. I don't remember exactly what, but it was like, you got to be kidding me. And then you sit back and look at what actually happened, and it's like, it wasn't that bad of a week. It just wasn't that bad.
Hey, Daniel from California. I'm just wondering, can somebody give me a number, either you, Ryan, or somebody who wants to actually, do the work? But how many crucial plays, whether it's dropped first downs or dropped touchdowns, does Wicks have? Because, if he just did half of them, we win probably 2 more games, and it's like, oh, look at that. If you look at adding 2 more games, we're only a 1-loss team, but this guy, we might, if he doesn't drop anything, we might be undefeated. I know everybody else has had some drops. Even Romeo has had a couple of drops, Mr. Never Drops, but if we just cut down the drops in half, and we just clean up a couple penalties, I think we can be good. I saw Lil Wayne's going to be a member of NFL Network as a contributor, and to me, the first thought that I thought is oh, cool. Maybe the NFL might help rig it in our favor, because the easiest way to help us is to stop penalizing us for procedural stuff. If they just stop throwing the procedural, we'll cut down from 10 penalties a game down to 5 false starts instead, or 3 false starts and 2 personal fouls. And just cutting our penalties in half by the NFL would make us on a Super Bowl run, because that's how close we are to being a top 3 team. And Lil Wayne being there to cheer for it. Conspiracy. it's a conspiracy, and I'm all for it. I already said I'm all for it, so hopefully my conspiracy's right. Less penalties and less drops equals Super Bowl run. That's all I got. Go Pack, go.
I got some fun stats for you. Do you know who actually leads the league in drops? It's not Wicks. It's Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed and Amari Cooper are tied for 7 drops this season. Now that's cumulative, but still, I mean, I think we're overlooking how bad Jaden Reed has been also when it comes to drops. You know who's number 1 in drop percentage? That's Dontavian Wicks. So we've got Reed leading the league in drops. We have Wicks leading the league in drop percentage. A few other names here. So if we look at drops, Jaden Reed's number 1. Dontavian Wicks is number 3. He's tied with Allen Lazard, and Devontae Adams is tied for 8th. The Packers have done a bang-up job of going out and finding people that are really good at dropping footballs. It's just, it's gotta chill out. But yeah, just between the two, it's 13 drops, just between those two guys. How many are touchdowns or first downs? That I don't know, but it is just brutal and it is unacceptable. Penalties are not as damning. Right now, when you look at penalties against, they're tied with the Saints, who are ranked, why can't I say? Oh, they don't have a rank thing here. 10th with 66. If you look at yards, it's even better. Again, they don't have everything listed here. I should export this so that I can actually see what the ranks are. But let's just say they're middle of the pack as far as penalty yards against. And then if you look at the net count, so how many penalties you get compared to your opponents, they rank 6th worst. So Carolina, the Jets, Cleveland, Philadelphia, and Baltimore is actually number 1. Baltimore is number 1 in penalties. They've had 80 penalties and only 56 against them. So they are minus 24 in that. If you look at the net yards, Green Bay is down in, 10th or 12th or something like that. It's minus 38 yards. So the difference between the yardage that we've been given in penalties and the yardage we've given up is 38 yards. Not saying it's not a big deal. It's there's too many penalties and they got to chill out, and it absolutely would have helped us. But we're pretty close to even when it comes to, you divide that up over however many games we've played. We're talking maybe 5 yards a game, something like that. If you look at total flags that have been thrown, because there are some that are declined and some that are offsetting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're 7th. So they've also been a beneficiary of, they've got 11, for example, penalties that have been declined. So, you get a penalty on a holding, but it was a sack or whatever, that's going to end up getting declined, I guess, depending on the circumstances. And then there have been 4 offsetting penalties so far. So 81 total flags thrown. Baltimore, as the highest, has had 95 flags thrown. So priority numero uno is to stop the drops. And then, number 2, really, if we can get on the other side of the penalty thing, at least have less go against us than against our opponent, that would be nice. I want to make sure we don't go too fast here. All right, let's go with the next caller. Yeah.
So I had this hypothetical question in my mind. I'm curious if you'd like to explore it a little. What would happen if an NFL team had a tragic accident, like a plane crash or something, and all the players passed away? But you got this franchise now that has no players or staff. I'm curious what would happen. Like, would there be some sort of supplemental draft? Would there be some sort of thing where they allow the team to select a few players from other teams? Would they just let them have the entire first round the next year? I'm just curious what would happen if you have any thoughts of what you think would happen.
Certainly they would. I guess it would be similar to when they add a franchise. So apparently one of the things that they do is called an expansion draft, which is kind of similar to in fantasy football, where you can protect certain players, but outside of that, they have the ability to draft players off of other teams. But all unprotected players are available for selection by the new franchise. So probably something like that. And then, they would be given a high position in the draft, probably the number 1 picks. And that happens for several years that they just get granted that. So I don't know if that accumulates where you just automatically get a number one pick. In other words, we just push you to the front of the line every year, or do you get something in addition to? And then there may be some salary cap flexibility for the first few years or so, just until they can kind of get squared away. So yeah, hopefully something like that doesn't happen. It seems ridiculous that they'd be able to poach players from other teams, but I do think they would probably allow teams to, you can protect at least 53 players, so you're kind of poaching off of people's I don't want to say practice squads, but kind of. So that wouldn't be the main building tool. They're not going to go out and get Jaden Reed off our team or whatever and be like, you got enough receivers, we're taking this guy. But yeah, I don't know, probably something like that.
Howdy, this is Jared, the Uber driver from Texas. And I had a couple thoughts on some of the Packernet After Dark. You talked about being a beast, be like bees and being hives. I saw a very, accurate movie called The Bean Movie. Their antennas are phones, man. It's pretty dope. It just all comes together, and like they have a roller coaster going to work. They basically involve a theme park on the way to work.
Dang.
Joking aside, I don't know if you've seen these horror movies, the Insidious movies. They're one of my favorites, and they also have
I always forget which one's
the guy from the Conjuring movie is also in them. So if you like him as an actor in horror movies, he's pretty good in it. There's 5 of them. The first 3 are pretty solid. The first 2 are really good, I think. And then the 5th one goes back to that family. The 4th one, you can take it or leave it. It's all right, but if you hadn't seen those, they're pretty solid. And then
the problem with this is I always forget. Like I'm pretty sure I went through and watched these, but I don't know. I know I've seen Insidious. I don't know if I've seen all of them. I vaguely remember what this one is. I think it's where they don't they end up kind of on the other side at some point, and it's kind of like it's almost like the Upside Down in that one show where you're kind of there, but you're on I don't remember exactly, but I think I have seen that.
Finally, talking about, availability is the best ability. It is an unfair thing to say, but we've seen so many great players, come into the league and then never do much because they're always injured.
And to be clear, like I said, I think it's correct to say, but I think it's incorrect to treat it equally as far as frustration toward the player, right? Like it's a different thing than saying your ability like Lucas Van Ness is not playing well because of his abilities or lack of abilities. Jair has a lack of availability, which you could say all of his abilities are gone because he's not there, but it's treating them the same is silly. One guy is a hardworking player that's very talented, that's done a lot of good things for this team, and if he could just be healthy, which is a thing that's done to him, not like you suck for these reasons, it's a negative thing that's being done to him that is not allowing him to continue to be this great player that he's been for the Green Bay Packers for 7 straight years. So it's I don't want to say that I completely disagree with the saying entirely, but I think it's been used and abused in a way that we've gotten to the point where it's kind of like justification for going at players who get hurt, right? Well, that is an ability, and I can attack your abilities, so there you go. It's like, now I don't like it anymore.
I think it's a little different for Jair and Aaron Jones in a way because they're still showing a lot of talent every year. They're still showing out every year. Granted, maybe not as many games as maybe some Hall of Famers or something, but they're still showing out. I think that's really more attributed to people like, toward the end of like Cam Newton's career. Not that he was a Hall of Fame quarterback or anything, but he just kept getting injured and injured and injured. Like he would come back for one game and then be out for 4 more and stuff like that. I don't think Jair or Aaron Jones are really on that level because they'll still be in for a few games. So that's my 2 cents on that. Have a great day. Have a great Wednesday. Happy hump day. Go Pack, go.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully grasped that last part. I think I thought you were going a different direction, and then when you didn't go there, I got confused. But yeah, I mean, it is frustrating that he's hurt a lot. That does suck, especially because, and it's like I said, guys that have recurring injury issues that are not good at football don't get the same amount of scrutiny because nobody cares that they're not playing. So it's sort of evidence that the guy's a good football player, the fact that people get so frustrated. But again, I just think it's kind of silly to get frustrated with the player. It's a frustrating. Sometimes stuff happens, man. It's outside of your control, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it sucks. And that's kind of where we're at with Jair. Now, maybe there are certain situations where that's not the case. People don't take care of their body, whatever. But I don't think that that's a common thing. And if it is, I don't think that we would know about it. We would have no way of knowing that that is the situation. Jair doesn't take care of his body enough, and that's why he keeps getting hurt. I mean, there's no point speculating with that because there's no reason to believe that. Anyways, why don't we take our first break? We'll come back and hear from 1265 fan.
Hey, 1265.
What up?
So now that you mentioned it, I just have to say, the scariest movie creature of all time that I've ever seen, literally, it freaked me out in my 50s. And yeah, I think I must be about 10 years older than you. I'm 55.
Okay.
The scariest movie monster, not even from any of our eras. Watch Nosferatu.
What is it?
Oh my God. That's the freakiest freaking monster I have ever seen.
Nosferatu or
The
something?
movie's a little slow because, again, the silent movie.
Oh,
I'm telling you, the costume and makeup person that did that monster, you are sick, dude. Sick. I mean, you can look up the Nosferatu vampire. You can look that up and see him. But watch him in the movie. It's way more freakier in the movie. I'm just, oh God, it makes me shiver even thinking about it. Okay, bye.
So I didn't really know what that was. I know I'd kind of heard about it or whatever, but it's funny. I look at, there's a picture of him like next to somebody in bed or whatever, and it's like, I've seen that before. That's where that comes from. So it's like a vampire movie. Is that what it is? I don't even know. Let's see. German, 1922 silent German expressionist vampire film. A vampire who preys on the wife of his estate agent and brings the plague to their town. Let's see. Production that was an unauthorized and unofficial adaptation of Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula. Changed a bunch of details to make it seem like they weren't stealing stuff, including changing Count Dracula's name to Count Orlok, and then finally Nosferatu, which is an archaic Roman word with a suggested etymology meaning the offensive one or the insufferable one. But yeah, even though it's copyright infringement, they acknowledge that its origins are Dracula. Oh, that's interesting. Even with several details altered, Stoker's heirs sued over the adaptation, and a court ruling ordered all copies of the film to be destroyed. However, several prints of Nosferatu survived, and the film came to be regarded as an influential masterpiece. That's crazy. So the movie that we're watching is because a couple like bootleg copies snuck out the side door and we're able to watch it. I have to check that out. Not only is it a horror movie, but it falls in line with kind of in that, one of those classics that you probably should see. I try to catch up on those. Apparently there is a 2024 version of this movie. Well, there's several, actually. It looks like Dracula 1931, something else in 1920. There's another one in 79, and then there's a 2024 version. Unless maybe that's what you mean is 2024, but I don't think so. I think you said it was the old one. You can rent it on Amazon for $2. Might do that. Of course, the 2024 version has Bill Skarsgård in it, because why wouldn't it? Willem Dafoe is in it. Lily Rose Depp. I'm assuming that's some relation to Johnny Depp. I have no idea. Huh. Good to know. The more you know. Da, 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 da.
What's going on, so Modified Fighter? How y'all doing?
What's up?
Want to just call, shout out 1265 fan, my horror fan sister. I was calling just to recommend some horror films. I heard her mention some on the podcast. You do a little genre timeline. So for you guys and girls, I would recommend The Substance. The movie is great. The last 10 minutes it goes off the hinges, and that makes it bad. It's just, it kind of like goes crazy. I'm gonna put it like this. It almost made me throw up. And I watch a lot of horror movies.
It's funny because I always associate with you with a particular genre of horror, and it's always like gore. And I pull up The Substance, and I see it's 2024, and the scene that I see is a woman laying on her side with like stitches going all the way down her spine, and I'm like, bro, this is an Omar flick for sure.
I've seen dead bodies for real, blood. I do all that for work. But I wasn't expecting it, so I saw some crazy stuff. The last 10 minutes of that movie is like, it could have went off and been like a great movie, but the last 10 minutes is like beating a dead horse, and then you continue to beat it till it's just a bloody pulp. So, but overall, the movie is good. I would give it like a 7 out of 10. If you took off the last 10 minutes, it would be probably like a 8, 9 out of 10. But the last 10 minutes is what made me sick. So I kind of like give it some love because of that. If you're looking for something that plays with your mind, it's a horror. I would say it's a movie. It's a brand new movie. It's called Heretic. It's a very great movie. It's about religion. And you might know, if you're not a religious person, you might, I don't want to see that, that's boring. It's great because it's basically about a guy who wants to find the ultimate religion. And these two Mormon girls knock on his door, and then he basically put them through a test to find the best religion in the world or something like that. Okay. So that was a great movie overall, and I enjoyed that, and I learned a couple of things, dropped a couple knowledge gems, so that was pretty good. And I'm trying to think of something maybe somebody else. I know you're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To me, in my opinion, the first one was great. Yep. Then they kind of fell off a little bit. Then the early 2000s one, with Jessica Biel.
Yeah, amazing.
That one and.
By the way, I looked at like some of the Rotten Tomato things. I can't remember the exact order. One was great. I think 2 was complete garbage, if I'm not mistaken. That was the one dude had a plate in his head or whatever. That was terrible. Maybe my favorite one was one of the lowest rated that I could find, and that's the one with Matthew McConaughey. I absolutely love that movie, and I was shocked to see it was like lower. It was rated lower than I think even the second one. It's clearly not a very popular one. I think it's fantastic. I think you get some good actors in there who could really pull off crazy. It reminds me of Arlie Ermy in the one you're talking about, where he just pulls off crazy so good. And one of the other things too that's, maybe I'm weird this way, but I like horror movies where you kind of chuckle along with the crazy people. Arlie Ermy has got some lines in there where it's like, dude, he's crazy and I like it. Like, I like this dude. I'm sorry. I like it. And it was kind of that way with Matthew McConaughey. I don't know that there were a ton of funny lines, but it was just such a good character that he played. I don't know. I guess I'm alone in that, but I freaking love that version of it. The Arlie Ermy one is up there with it, but maybe because I've seen that one so many times, I might prefer the Matthew McConaughey, but those two I think are my favorite.
James on Beginning, both those are good. And I like the one on Netflix, is pretty good as well. Little cheesy, but overall it's pretty good. I have to drop some gems that might be a little harder to find for people, but highly recommend. I'll do that another time. But anyway, go Pack Go. Hopefully we make the Bears cut as hard movies and how bad we beat them up this weekend. So anyway, go Pack Go.
It's actually interesting to see the two movies that you mentioned. They're both 2024. How big the names are. It seems stupid that I would care that much, but it just some of the horror movies are so low quality in terms of just the acting and everything, it makes it hard to get into it, at least for me. So seeing like high quality actors in these movies leads me to be a little bit more interested in it. And it's also cool to see that it's not this thing where nobody wants to act in these movies anymore. It's so, for example, The Substance has Demi Moore and Dennis Quaid in it, along with some other people. Some people are really good at actors and actresses. I don't know who some of these people are, but and then Heretic, that looks like the main character is Hugh Grant, which is kind of cool. Other names that seem to be familiar, but I don't know from where. Topher Grace, not sure, but definitely want to check those out. It sounds like they're both in theaters, although I think I can get one of them at least on Amazon. So I'll have to check around and see. Heretic, I have a feeling is going to be more my style than The Substance, but I'll try to check them out.
What's going on, Omar Firefighter? Calling back again. I had to give you a shout out this time, thank Daddy, Mr. Ryan, because you do a great job of explaining things to certain Packer fans. Sometimes people just read the headlines and don't understand it.
Thank you.
I understood it, and I was 100% on board with what you said, but I like how you do explain to people who don't understand. I know sometimes fans fall in love with, like, the names. Like the Preston Smith trade, they're like, oh my gosh, and everything else. But you did a good job explaining, like, hey, it was a win-win for both sides. We get rid of the cap, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Similar to like Aaron Rodgers, how we got rid of that. That was great that we were able to sign some free agents.
And something else I didn't bring up is I think the Packers should be afforded some grace on this. Because I think historically, and this goes back to Ted Thompson, they've done a very good job of getting out of these things a year early as opposed to a year late. Very, very, very rarely do these guys go on to have successful careers for a long period of time outside of Green Bay. I mean, there are almost no exceptions. I know people think Rasul has had a good time out in Buffalo. He has not. There have been some rare clips of him that look impressive in the couple games that he's played well, but over the course of the season, he's been pretty bad since he left Green Bay. Rodgers obviously has not been doing very well the last 2 years. Even his last year in Green Bay was not super great. So I think this writing was on the wall. But, there have been a couple offensive linemen that I think we let go way too early. Sitton, I think, was for other reasons. I think there were some locker room issues there, some comments that were made. I love that freaking guy. But other guys like Lang and whatnot, I think were let go maybe a little bit too early. But for the most part, these guys do not go on to have, even Mike Daniel, that one really ticked me off when it happened because I knew the time was coming, but it's like, there's no way this guy goes on to not be successful. To this day, he's a very good football player. He went somewhere. I don't remember exactly where. He was bad. Like day one, just bad. So I understand that that's not the main thing is next year and beyond. It's mostly this year, but the point is it doesn't usually blow up in our face.
Like they helped us this year. So I believe in our GM, and he does a great job. We signed as free agents when we needed to sign free agents both times. When we got Preston and Jerry's first time, and just now we got our running back and safety. He doesn't overspend. I would say his only mess ups, to be honest, in my opinion, would be Kenny Clark. But we didn't think that he would fall off this bad. Yeah. And it's kind of, I feel like the Kenny Clark contract is like a thank you for what you've done for us. And that's something that Goot normally doesn't do.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that are kind of stuck in a tough situation. He's still relatively, when did he get that contract? Like 27 years old? I don't think the Packers part with those guys. I think generally, they liked Kenny. They believed that he was going to continue to be a good football player. And, we always think of like the Packer way as being getting rid of 30-year-olds, but they also are always going to give out those, it might even been a third contract, I don't know, but they always give out those second contracts. If you're in your mid-20s and you're a contributor for our team, you're going to get paid. They're very loyal to the young players on the team that are starters. And, so that usually also doesn't blow up in our face, but there are several examples of that being a disaster. But it's also like that comes with the territory. That's going to happen. My famous example I always use is Nick Perry. The guy played well for 1 year, dominated in a contract year, got paid, and fell off entirely. But at the same time, it's like, what if you were to ask the Packers, what did you learn from that? They'd shrug and say nothing. Nothing. Not to say I would do it again, but given the exact same situation, I think that they would. Because that's just how they operate. We're not getting rid of this guy. He's, 28 years old, played really well. I'm not going to sit here and try to predict, like, I bet he's not going to. No, it's just, that's not how that works. So Kenny was going to get paid. I think that's true for probably just about every team, unless they're just in contract hell. But I think it's one of those really unfortunate for team things where there's guys that they're due to get paid, and so you have to pay them, and there's a good chance they're not going to play very well.
So, that's surprising, but I get that's kind of why he did it. But like, even some people are like, we're overpaying Jordan. Yeah, but if you break it down, which you broke it down as well previously, he's getting paid the same as Trevor Lawrence.
And that's another one too, where it's not really a decision. There is no coming into this and saying, maybe we go in a different direction after as much as you put into him and as good as he was. And there also was never going to be well, how about we give him like 35 or 40 million to see how it goes? It's not an option. It's not, there is a rule book, not an official rule book, but there is a rule book, and all 32 teams play by it. That guy's getting paid, period. That's the end of the conversation. So you can sit here and say, well, the Packers are stupid for doing that. Every single team in the NFL would have done exactly that. Because that guy, after what he did, and given the sometimes it's just a negative in terms of like where you're at with your contract situation. It's time for him to get paid, and he's going to get paid.
So, if Trevor Lawrence is the reason we paid Love the amount of money he gets, he got it. Because at the time, Love basically did more than Trevor Lawrence did. Even in that one season, like he almost was the best quarterback. Trevor Lawrence has his whole career hasn't been considered one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So, even though I think Trevor Lawrence might be doing better this year, I would love for you to do a compare and contrast of that. But we do a good job. I enjoyed your little pre-draft or little semi-draft thing. I didn't like you didn't grab any receivers, but I don't think this is a deep receiver draft class. And I know it's like a wet dream for me to get somebody like Jamar Chase on our team. Like, that's like a monster. Like, I just can imagine having that type of wide receiver on our team would be like awesome, But anyway, everybody have faith in the GM, have faith in the team, and if not, we'll get it correct next year. So anyway, go back though.
Yeah, there was a flurry of quarterbacks. It was kind of a good quarterback era. Flurry of guys kind of getting paid. I'm not really sure who's next up. Possibly Brock Purdy. I don't know if he's going to command top dollar or not. He probably should, but I think there's a lot of belief probably within San Francisco as well that a lot of the success is San Francisco, and they could probably replace him if need be. And I think the market outside of San Francisco could be low if that perception is broad enough that, you have to have a market NFL-wide that is willing to pay you $60 million plus. And if the perception is you're not worth $60 million outside of San Francisco, then that's just not what you're going to make. But the point is, these contracts are going to be surpassed. Might be a little while. I'm not exactly sure who it's going to be, but the number keeps going up. And so, all the talk about how horrible the contract, it's too much, and we covered that pretty thoroughly. I think it wasn't as much as people make it out to be. And it wasn't even really top. We talked about how the Joe Burrow contract was, like $64 million. So if you were going to even match that, you would have been at 64. Nobody touched it. Dak was the closest at 60, which is sort of a discount. And obviously, we had Jordan Love below that. But in terms of like the real dollars, which is what most people are focused on, that's going to continue to grow, and then people will be less and less annoyed by it. But that's going to happen every time. I was freaked out when Rodgers got $30 million. Like, geez, man, this is too much. We can't do this. Now it sounds stupid. Got to focus on those percentages. Why don't we take a break? We got 5 more calls. We'll try to rip through all of them. We'll be right back.
All right, how you doing? It's Nico from Idaho.
What's up?
The day off, so I'm just kind of driving around having fun. And I'm normally super positive, and I know I've been a little more realistic and depressed lately, but after this last week, the one, I guess, way to be positive is, yeah, we're playing like crap, but everybody is.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone, you know how the NFL, there's always checks and balances, and a lot of stuff evens out. Like the Vikings and the Lions have been getting a little lucky playing like crap and winning. That's not going to last forever. That's not sustainable. You know, Jared Goff throws 5 interceptions on any other team but that piece of crap team they played last week, and they lose by 40, right? So everyone's playing that crap. Yeah, so do we. We also had a very late, I'm pretty sure everyone else had a bye. So we had ours really at the perfect time. And the other good thing is that, I mean, our defense has still been playing fairly consistent. I don't think anyone scored a crap ton of points on us. I mean, we've been losing some games and only allowing like 17 points, you know, from their offense. I'm not talking about the points we give them from our offense. So at least the defense has been point-wise fairly, I think, consistent. And gee golly, Beaver, if they just connect on offense like they can, like we know they can, it's the same team really that was last year offensively. You know, a couple new little injections, but offensively almost identical. Man, we get a little momentum and we could just steamroll. So, I don't know, that's my little bit of positive crap. Oh, I almost said a bad word, sorry. Because I can't be negative too much, you know. A lot of people, I was really surprised all the people giving the Packers crap for getting rid of Smith. I mean, the guy he's washed up and expensive. I would rather our new guys get more playing time.
Yeah.
And be just as bad.
And again, it's you look at a guy like Brenton Cox, and it's like he's probably not going to do much. It's like he doesn't have to do much. He could be a bad football player and be better than Preston. That's where we're at with that situation.
Him, you know, being really bad and making a crap ton more money. So just get rid of I had an argument, you know, with some dumb dog on Facebook years ago about I said that, you know, we got rid of Daniels at the right time. And this dude just went off. And I think he's awesome when he's there. But then he gets injured. He's out 5 games. And guess what? When you're not there, you can't be good. You know? I like his attitude? Mike Daniels. If I could just take Mike Daniels' mojo and give it to every defensive lineman, holy crap. I loved his attitude, but you can't get sacks on the bench, you know? So, yeah, we got rid of Daniels at the right time, and I think we got rid of Preston maybe a little too late. But hey, 3 minutes, go back up.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, you know, context, you mentioned earlier on about everybody's playing bad. I mean, just going through the penalties and realizing that one of the best teams in football is actually one of the worst when it comes to penalties. I mean, you know, we talk about you cannot be good and you cannot do this, that, or the other if you're that lacking in discipline. And you look at Baltimore and say that is technically the least disciplined team in the entire NFL. I don't know. It just makes you feel a little better. Like, oh yeah, like, I mean, we're struggling like a lot of other really good teams. Cause I think a lot of us, myself included, when you look at these things, you assume all the great teams don't do this stuff. And we're like the one team that are kind of frauds, just kind of floating around, pretending we're good, but yet we're really sloppy and make mistakes. And it's like, bro, everybody is doing that. So still needs to get cleaned up, no doubt about it. But it's good to get a little bit of perspective and realize that, you know, it's not just everybody playing super clean football except the Packers. That's not correct.
Ryan, what's up, buddy? Kyle from Madison. How are you? I'm definitely enjoying your just spitfire roasting of Chicago Bears. I think it's a trilogy now. Maybe we're up to a trilogy. So fantastic content. Here's the thing. We got to win this week. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to get it twisted because I think all their issues aside, just that Bears defense, you know, alone, I mean, they're good enough to beat the Packers. If the Packers come out and do the whole like Keystone Cops routine on offense with their protections, like, whoop, who do I cover? Who am I blocking? Whoop, I'm late. I guess I'll hold this guy. You know, we've seen that routine where they're not getting off the ball and getting their protection sound right away, and they're getting flags. And, you know, if it's going to be one of those games, definitely the Bears are good enough to beat us, and that cannot be allowed to happen.
Yeah.
That the saying, what is it? It's not who you play, it's when you play them. I never 100% bought into that, but there is some truth to it. And it's crazy to me how one game, different games alter the trajectory of seasons for teams. If the Bears finish off the Commanders, I just think they're in a different place. I'm glad they're not, but likewise, if the Packers completely squander that game against the Texans, I think, we end up in a lot darker place too. And so this is one of those that the Packers have to have. And I'd really love to see them play much closer to a complete game. It's one thing to lose the Vikings or the Eagles or the Lions, as much as that upset the hell out of me. You can't drop this game to the Bears. So I'm hoping we see a focus squad. I'm really hoping we don't see, by the third quarter, shots of Love hobbling around because of this groin. I'm going to be real upset if that happens, because I was very clear which camp I was in about whether or not we rest him or not give him a full 3 weeks. So I hope they've made the right call. But, boy, it sure would be sweet if we could just absolutely just demolish Chicago this weekend. It would just be chef's kiss. So here's hoping, man. It's going to be a big game, this part of the country. All right, go Pack.
Yeah, I'm trying to, since FTN bought out the DVOA thing, it's a little bit different. There's some things they don't have anymore. I'm trying to see if I can find it. You mentioned the defense. Just to be clear, their defense has fallen off a cliff. As of right now, I believe they rank. Well, I'm looking at Dave right now, which kind of looks at more recent, weighting it heavier, more recent games as opposed to older games. And Chicago, their defense ranks 16th. Green Bay is 14th. So they are average at best. I'm trying to see week to week. I'm not seeing it, but they do have these weekly breakdowns. Aaron Schatz writes a weekly thing. One of the interesting things, I'm just trying to search for Bears in any of these, his Week 9 review, I mentioned the Bears once, and he talks about these things called defensive funnels. And essentially what that is where you funnel an offense to do a thing because you're really good at stopping this and really bad at stopping that. The Chicago Bears are the number one run funnel team because they are ranked 4th in pass defense and 30th in run defense. They are one of the worst run defending teams in football and one of the best pass defending teams in football. Looks like the update on that as far as DVOA, they're ranked 6th in pass defense, 30th in run defense. If we pull up the old Dave here, they don't have that for the run splits or pass splits, but the point is it's continually getting worse. They're becoming less of a funnel because their pass defense is actually getting worse. But that is worth noting. The only two teams that are worse against the run are New Orleans and Carolina. The only two teams that are worse at stopping the run. In fact, there are 23 teams that are, I guess, positive against the run. 23 teams that are, above average against the run. Negative 1.4 is Cincinnati, who ranks 23rd. Chicago is 7%. So it's pretty significant. They are the bottom two teams are 10 and 10.1%. So they're very close to that. The next worst team is under 4%, and that's Las Vegas. So they're very, very bad at stopping the run. Just thought I'd point that out, I guess. But you're right. We have to beat the Bears. That's why I don't even want to discuss it. We can talk about that for anybody else. We could talk trap game. We can talk all that crap. I'm not doing that with the Bears. I'm not. We beat the Bears. It's what we do. This is the worst Bears team I've seen in forever. Completely and utterly useless, destroyed, terrible offense, can't stop the run. Players have given up. Coaches are getting fired. I'm not having that discussion.
Hey, this is Nico. Real quick.
Hey.
I'm listening to your podcast, and the guy's asking DJ Moore about the Boo Birds. And I'm like, did he say Boo Birds? So I'm just going to call them the Boo Bears from now on. They're the Chicago Boo Bears because, 1, they suck. 2, their own team lose them in the first quarter. So from now on to the end of time, I will always refer to them as the Chicago Boo Bears. Thank you, DJ Moore, the guy, whoever's interviewing him. Thank you.
Yeah, it didn't dawn on me because I was like, well, it's. I didn't care for it at first until I realized the original term is boo birds, and that doesn't make any sense either. And since they're both animals, why can't it be boo bears? So I get it now, and I'm okay with it. I think that's the right thing to do. Apparently, the term comes from the 30s, and it's back when bird was like a term for just a person. So it's like a booing person is a boo bird. I could have swore, and AI is being very argumentative today. I could have sworn bird was like a term for like a woman. And I guess in England, that's kind of a thing. It wasn't as much in America. We just said bird was like just a random, just any old person. I guess it's kind of weird. We do say things like he's a weird bird. You know what I mean? Some of those phrases have kind of come through. Odd bird, whatever it is. Free bird. It's a person that craves freedom. Love birds. Early bird, which I just always assumed was like birds get up early. That's why you're like an early bird is a person who wakes up early. Fair enough. Boo bird is a person that boos. Da 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 da. All right. I got to get that stupid song queued up.
Hey, Ryan, Trevor in Virginia.
Hey.
I was just calling. I saw something pretty interesting online that I didn't fact check it because it seemed like it would take forever to do, but it all seemed pretty accurate when I saw the teams come through. It was the last time every NFL team, like the last year that every NFL team had come in last in their division. And I was like, man, the Packers might be like at the top of this thing. And, I kept going through the teams one by one. And, sure enough, the Packers were the second to longest streak without being last in the division. With 2005 being the last time we were last in the division. The only time the team that beat us crazy, the Steelers, 1988. Obviously the Steelers have had great coaching for a long time, but, it was pretty crazy because even at 2005, I think we were a good bit above the next team. And then the Steelers are obviously way past everybody else. But just shows that two teams obviously we know continue to success even though they might not have all the Super Bowl wins in recent times. Just sustained success in good football teams. When people think of that, I feel like you think of Steelers, Packers. You don't really think of Patriots because they came on with Brady and they went back away. So, it's like, so anyway, that was it. Go Pack, go.
The more you know.
The season for the Packers, it's very interesting, right? We still have a good thing going, and there are a bunch of question marks with the pass rush, Jordan's interceptions, and it's not bad, right? Things are going pretty good. So when I'm feeling down, I just think about the Bears. Everything we said about the Bears was true. We were right. Every single thing. Caleb holds onto the ball, and he doesn't want to play within rhythm. There's guys open. Within 2 seconds, there's guys open. He's not throwing it, and the line can't block. They got Roma Dunze when they should have traded down and got more picks because they look like a offense that needs more talent on the offensive line. When their line is healthy, because everybody was out last week, right, and they got 9 sacks, of course it's going to happen, but when everybody's healthy, they have, a decent line, right? It's not the greatest, but there's no competition. You only have the top guys, and everything after is no depth, and it's great. It's just, when I think about it, it makes me happy. Because we told them what the thing they should do, because we know, right? They didn't do it. The way to build a good team is just having the most picks. And they were trading away picks. They trade away next year's picks. They traded away a 4th rounder next year for a 5th rounder this year. It's like, what are you doing? That's a better pick. But he's cooking, right? Something's burning, but he's cooking. Go Pack, go.
Well, listen, this is going to be my thing from now on. Anytime somebody complains about, these stupid teams, they love picks too much. They care about picks too much. These hypothetical picks. Go root for the Bears. Go root for the Bears. That's your team. That's your team. That's the team that says picks are just a maybe, and I'm going to take this maybe and turn it into a definitely, which of course is not a definitely. It's also destroying your long-term viability because instead of having, these players for the next potentially 10 or more years, you have this for maybe 3 years. It's unsustainable from a salary cap standpoint, and you also end up overpaying in terms of value, whereas draft picks you end up underpaying based on value, because if they're actually on the field, it's because they have value and you're not paying them that much value. Free agents, generally you overpay for. Not always, but usually. So it's a very short-sighted view to just say, well, I'd rather have the sure thing than the maybe pick. It doesn't make any sense. Well, okay, if it doesn't make sense to you, and I can't seemingly explain it to you, then just go look at the Bears. That's your team. Enjoy. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a good rest of your night. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.